Hi, everyone. It is 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Lynn Hernandez. I'm with the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation, and I am here with Christina Kosyla this afternoon, who is a desmoid tumor patient.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Lynn.
No worries. It's so great to have you here. So this is actually our first time broadcasting live, which is very exciting to us, and I'm so glad that Christina's joining us because she's a pro at this, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So before we get started, we have a few reminders for the community. As you can see below, I have a little note that says, is Desmoid Tumor Awareness Month every September. If you visit our website, you can learn how you can help amplify the patient voice along with DTRF's message. So please visit dtrf.org/awareness. Also, be sure to join us for DTRF's Together We Will virtual weekend, which is running from September 24th to the 26th this year. We have opportunities for patients to connect and to learn. And when you register for this event, you will have the opportunity to fundraise. So if you visit dtrf.org/weekend, you'll be able to participate in the RFA Virtual Challenge. You'll be able to participate in our patient meeting webinars, which will educate patients, and you'll also be able to network with other patients during our networking events. So check it out, dtrf.org/weekends. Okay. So I think we're going to get started. I know that I have an amazing guest today who has a lot to share with you guys. So I just want to remind everyone, if you'd like, please comment below. I'm sure you're going to have many, many questions for Christina, and she's going to be happy to answer a few at the end of the broadcast. So again, my name is Lynn Hernandez. I'm with the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation. And today I'm here to have a special conversation with a special member of the desmoid tumor patient community, Christina Kosyla. Again, just a reminder, please comment, make comments, and we're happy to answer any questions at the very, very end. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Lisa. Hey, Amanda. Oh, Marlene's here too, our co-founder. This is wonderful. Okay, so I just want to mention again, this is our very first broadcast. This is really, really exciting for us. And I am going to now formally introduce you to Christina. Okay, Christina. So Christina is an educator. She's a theater artist.
So it looks like Lynn might have left the broadcast for a moment. Lynn, I could see you there.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay,
Now, yes,
all right.
right ahead.
Okay, great. So Christina is an educator, theater artist, accidental rare disease advocate. Her performance and directorial work has been seen in diverse venues such as the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in Edinburgh, Scotland, and jazz festivals in Tuscany. Since her diagnosis with a desmoid tumor in 2018, she has raised over $32,000 for the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation. She chronicles her treatment and adventures on her blog and Instagram account, Girl Meets Cancer. Christina lives in New Jersey with her dog, Daisy. Okay, so before we get started, Christina, would you like to say hi to the community?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. It's so great to see so many folks here, especially those that I know online through the Facebook group or through Instagram. And I did want to throw in that bit about my dog because if she decides to chime in from the background because she's very passionate about desmoid tumor awareness and research, you'll be able to hear her from time to time. But I'm thrilled to be here and really honored to be sharing my story with all of you today.
Okay. Wonderful. Sorry, guys, having some tech glitches. So I thank you for your patience. So let's start in the beginning, Christina. Tell us about how you discovered your desmoid tumor. Describe that moment where you first knew something was wrong, and what did you do next?
That's a great question. And this is actually kind of the funny part of the story that I enjoy telling. And it starts in a yoga studio where I was a yoga teacher and practitioner. I just finished my 200 hours of teacher training. I was practicing 3 to 4 times a week, teaching 1 to 2 classes a week as well. And I was very into arm balances. So that means I would fold myself up into a pretzel with my legs over my head. So there were several moments, several days in my practice where I would have a hard time doing a handstand. I'd feel a little bit of a pinch. I would fall out of my balance more easily than I would otherwise. And I started to back off and I would remove arm balances from my practice. And then every time I would go to reincorporate them back in, the same exact thing would happen. So I started to think that maybe it was something about my yoga practice. I saw a physical therapist who also did yoga. She checked me out, said, it looked like it was impingement. And from there, it wasn't until a dear friend of mine who I was teaching with at the time said, you look really swollen by your collarbone. And she said pretty emphatically, I would feel better if you got that checked out. And it wasn't until I got that actually kind of like instructive love from one of my friends that I followed her orders and I got myself seen first at the state level and then at the university level for healthcare. So all in all, it took me from the fall of 2017 until 2018 to be diagnosed.
That sounds like that must have been a long few months for you, Christina. Quite a journey. So you've been battling your desmoid for it's been like 3 or 4 years now. What has changed for you in terms of how you think about this disease today compared to the days and weeks just after you were diagnosed?
That's such a great question, Lynn. And the biggest shift has been in perspective for me. I am a type A person. I like taking on challenges. I like looking obstacles in the eye or figuring out how I'm going to accomplish something. And so when I was diagnosed with my desmoid tumor back in 2018, I really thought that it was going to be a one and done type of diagnosis, that I would be able to treat it for a couple months, maybe pretty intensely, have a surgery perhaps, and then be done and be able to put this behind me. But what I've learned over the years is patience. It has been a long 3.5 years in terms of number of treatments that I've needed to do, experiences, things that I've learned. And I've really come to understand that for some of us, this is more of a long haul condition or disease, and it's something that requires care throughout the lifetime, not just for the one moment.
That's so interesting you say that, Christina, because there are a lot of patients in this community that it's interesting you use the word long haulers, right? People that have been battling this disease for years and might even kind of describe it as a chronic condition, right? Kind of depending on the patient experience. So I'm wondering if there are any other patients down there. Please post in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Does this resonate with you? Is this something where you can say me too? I think that a lot of people can really relate to that, Christina, and I really appreciate your sharing that with us. You talk a lot about advocating for yourself and other patients as a personal turning point in your journey. Tell us how you found your voice, how you claimed your voice, and why you embrace this very public role of patient advocate.
It's funny when you were using the term found your voice because I would say my theater background gave me a pretty strong disposal to using my voice. In terms of advocacy work, however, that first voice was really through my blog. And it started because I wanted to put kind of a voice, a shout out into the darkness to ask other folks if they had heard of this thing, if they knew of another patient they could connect me with, or even if they were willing to just listen along this journey. And I know that the word journey sometimes gets overused, but it was allowing me to find and draw and connect community. And the wonderful thing was once I found the DTRF and started to get involved there, the community really found me. So at first I thought that I was reaching out, but really there was this wonderful group ready to huddle around me when I needed it the most as well.
Yeah, I'm hearing that, and I think that, and I just want to call out really quickly that we have some comments of some people expressing some love for you, Christina. You're so amazing. Your support has been amazing to me. Kate Hodgkins says, I thought this would be a quick surgery for me and over with. With the regrowth, I realized long haul is in my future. So yeah, I think that it's interesting, when we talk about the advocacy piece. I think, and I'm wondering if people are getting to that point because they really kind of want to take as much control as they can of their experience of the journey, and that you can only do so much, right? So there's a feeling of needing to feel empowered, right? Needing to advocate. um, so I want to talk a little bit about the pandemic. We're living obviously in some very challenging times right now. These past 18 months have been difficult. Can you speak a little bit to what that's been like for you as a patient?
Absolutely. I was thinking about, we've heard all this talk about we are in unprecedented times, and I'm really ready for some precedented times. I imagine that so many of us are. With COVID entering the scene and the confusion of the nature of the virus, it reminded me a bit of the early days of my diagnosis, right? Was like, okay, what is this? How do we treat it? And for me, the result was really to retreat because I had also just finished a year of IV chemotherapy and I didn't have a strong immune system. My baby immune system meant that I was more at risk than others. Little did I know that, we'd still be here talking about the rate of infection and transmission today. I look back on this last year as really one of the hardest in my life. I really applaud and honor those who continue to go to work, and who the people that were our real first responders, and that includes people who worked in the grocery stores, people who are bus drivers, all of those folks who put themselves in their way, and being very grateful that I was able to stay home during that time. It was incredibly isolating. I went through 366 days without any human touch, other, of course, than MRI imaging and getting blood work done. And more than ever, leaning into my online group, the Desmoidian, my space on there, or on Instagram where there were other Desmoid patients. That's where I found my community, where I found my home.
That's really powerful, and I think that I'm sure that a lot of other people that are listening to this can relate to that as well. Remember that you can comment below if you have any questions. Please share. Does what Christina's saying really resonate with you? I mean, I feel like we've heard it on the foundation end. A lot about just the frustration, obviously, with this past 18 months. I think a lot of people have experienced that. But I'm wondering if the patient community, if COVID has kind of reminded them of their newly diagnosed days. I'm interested to know. Um, so another question for you, Christina. Many desmoid tumor patients describe grappling with a sense of loss when they were diagnosed. You touched on this topic on Instagram and on your blog. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal experience with grief and loss as a patient?
Absolutely. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because it's something that we don't often hear about. We hear about, patient-reported outcomes from the medical community and how our tumors are measured or how our quality of life is measured. And often what's not looked at is the mental toll. So I know for me, grief took different spaces, and had different roles over the course of my diagnosis when I had to leave work as an elementary school teacher and when I had to say goodbye to my students. That was a real grief for me, needing to look all of my 100+ students in the eye and tell them what was going on with me and what had been going on behind the scenes was real grief. And it was also real grief, and it continues to be real grief as I kind of look at the many ways my life would be different if I didn't have this disease. I look at things like handstands that I took for granted. I look at things like the ability to, I don't know, pull a sweatshirt on over my head without getting stuck sometimes. That's a memory I miss. And the kind of gift of the healthy and sometimes the curse when you don't have it is that you take those things for granted. And I know there's so many in our community who can no longer walk, who can no longer do the things they once did in terms of caring for their children or their families. And I think that many of us need to be given permission to feel all that grief and to know that that grief is perfectly valid, even within the culture of toxic positivity that wants to see us brave and smiling no matter what. There are many days where, we might be smiling on Instagram, but what's under that, what's behind that is so much more like detailed or more subtle than we're willing to grapple with. So if there are other patients that are listening for whom this is true, just know that you're not alone. And even though you might be called an inspiration or others are calling you brave at this point, you don't have to feel that way all the time. And I know I certainly don't.
Thank you so much for that, Christina. Just want to call out some comments that are on Facebook and Instagram. Ellen says that she relied on her family to help her dress, bathe, and make food. It's often debilitating and mentally exhausting. I think that I'm sure that other patients feel that way as well. We have Becky Evans says, "You're amazing." And then we have another question from Becky, and I don't know if you just want to share this really quick. And obviously, every patient's experience is different, but if you want to share what therapies you are on, and you don't have to spend too much time on that. We have a lot of other things to cover, but if you want to touch on that, you can.
Yeah, so I'm happy to. Thankfully, in the middle of July, I was placed on nirogacestat, the clinical trial drug, through compassionate use. So that means that my patient-reported outcomes will not be part of the data that goes to the FDA to review this drug for approval or other trial rounds. But I know for a fact that I'm getting the actual drug. And so far, I said kind of the value of having several years of experience is you know what to expect. So my side effects have all been quite manageable. And I was just at the oncologist yesterday and things are looking pretty good. So I'll be able to share more after my first scan.
That's great. Thank you for that update. So just another comment. Sarah Biz says, "So grateful for you, Christina, and all you do to help guide the rest of us while you're in the throes of insanity yourself." I'm sure that you can agree with that. So what are some of the key things you've learned about yourself during your journey with this disease? And what advice would you share with a newly diagnosed Christina?
Oh, I can almost see her. She was so peppy. There's still some of that pep in there. It takes a nap to get to the pep level. I guess the first thing that I would share with a young Christina is to know that you were right. I think intuition, especially for women, can often be ignored in our medical system. And for me, it definitely was. I had seen a number of physical therapists. I'd been told there was nothing wrong with me, and I broke down crying in one of the offices. And when I was asked what was wrong, I said, there's something wrong with my body and nobody can tell me what it is. So I would say trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, other people might be experts in medicine, but you are the expert in your own experience. And so I would implore all patients out there to really feel that and to embody that. The second piece would be to advocate for yourself. So for me, it came a bit naturally. As a teacher, I wanted to take in the information and then kind of digest it as I would for a kindergartner. I think that if you can teach something complex to a kindergartner, that's kind of the level we should all be on, right? We're all a kindergartner in some respects about some topic. And when it came to this rare diagnosis that I'd never heard of prior to February of 2018, that's certainly where I was. But the most important thing that I would tell younger Christina, I would just give her a hug and let her know that it's really hard. And I think we get nervous to tell others that what they're about to do is just going to be really, really hard. But I like to use the adage from Glennon Doyle, we can do hard things. And the beauty of doing hard things is oftentimes you won't be doing them alone. You can find people who are using your same therapy. You can find how folks who are going through similar treatments, or even just feeling that same sense of loss of identity that you are. And that, I always say, worst club, best members. And that's kind of where I am in my journey. Hoping you can hear me now. Here we are. And just feeling just lean into that as much as you can, because when the people around you are going to be fantastic, they're going to be some of the best people you'll ever meet. So when you're not feeling like you can be entirely yourself on that day, see if you can lean into others and use some of their strength when you don't have any.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Christina. So we're going to, again, if anyone, and I know this says on the says on the screen, but if anyone has any questions, please post in the chat. As we wrap up, Christina, and before we get to our questions, we'd love to hear a little bit about your work in theater. What is your favorite role that you've played and why?
I love this question so much. It is such a joy. The role that holds such a special place in my heart, that is so near and dear to me, is Maria in The Sound of Music. And I was spoiled rotten, and I got to play her in middle school of all things. I played her in 7th grade, and it was my first lead ever in a musical. I'd never had more than 3 lines on stage, and suddenly I was carrying this very special, very beautiful show with such a meaningful message. So I hope that sometime within, the next playable amount of years, whatever that might be, I get to revisit her and try to, get a little less rusty on the guitar for Do Re Mi.
That's so wonderful. I love that movie. I haven't seen it in such a long time. I really need to sit down with it. But it's like 3 hours, isn't it? Like
It
ridiculously long.
is.
Yeah.
And our really our bold director had us do the whole thing. So bless my family members who were in the audience, not only once, but every performance, and didn't complain at all. That's love right there. The middle school production of Sound of Music, every time, that's love.
That's so great. So let's talk a little bit about how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so it's on the banner right below. I have the Instagram and blog both under the name Girl Meets Cancer. The way I met so many of you who are on here today is either through meeting you on Instagram and DMs, or through my blog, which has a contact feature. And so you can message me there. And I'm always happy to get in touch with any patients who are looking for some guidance or who are in need of a buddy in this world.
That's great. Thank you so much, Christina. Let's see what we have next. So does anybody have any questions that they want to share? I'm looking in the chat. I want to see if we have anything. Okay, so Christina, can you describe your worst day and your best day with this disease?
Wow, that is That's a really important question. And thank you to the person who asked it. I can't see your name, but um, my best day is something that you might see on Instagram. Okay. Recently, I was able to go to a flower farm with my friend, and I had gone to Aldi the day before and picked up some, like, cheese and fruit and things like that to put together like a little picnic. And we picked flowers and then we enjoyed our picnic. This past weekend, I was able to go apple picking with one of my best friends. And so time with other people can be a big feeder for me, that fills me up. So my worst day with this disease would have to be probably one of those days that I was alone over the course of COVID. And the promise of the vaccine was not yet on the horizon. And even though I was not on a treatment at the time, I live with the pain of this tumor every day. And sometimes it feels like tumor pain where it's just dull and it's in my chest. Other times it goes up the back of my neck, up the front of my neck, rather. I'm just falling apart here, folks. Or down my arm. And really, so those days where I am confined to couch, confined to the bed, and those pain days can be the worst. What I need to keep reminding myself is that those kind of days are okay, and sometimes you have to have two or those days in a row before you start to feel ready to have one of those better days, and to be gentle with yourself. So it would probably mean me laying on the couch saying, be gentle with yourself, be gentle with yourself. Don't think of what you used to be. Think of how you are right now in the moment.
I'm hearing that. We have another question coming in. What was your experience with fundraising for the first time?
I was so graciously overwhelmed by the amount of fundraising, especially my first year that happened. When I had learned about the DTRF and had suddenly this place that was putting all of my questions and all the research in one spot, it was like, wow, this is a no-brainer. This is what I'm going to donate my time to, and ask others to donate their time and their financial gifts to. So that was when I got diagnosed back in February, and by that May, I was fundraising for my birthday. And what I loved was about how generous people were in showing up for me, especially when I didn't anticipate it. And so much of that happened when I was just honest about my story. Here's where I am today, or here's how it's looking with this treatment. And just by being myself and telling people, this is what I've been through, honestly, without, trying to camouflage it, without, putting the rosy glasses on. Here is what's really going on with me. Folks were so generous and got, matching companies involved, or put me up for a suggestion at a local Rotary club. It was truly incredible. And now my folks, my people, my friends, my family know September is Desmoid Tumor time. So they know to get the plate kind of passed around, and that this is a long haul disease, but the work that the DTRF is doing is so exciting and so encouraging, that by being a fundraiser, I found it's an arm of advocacy that makes me feel like I have some control over this disease in my life.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. I remember when you first started fundraising for us, it was like you came out of nowhere. It was like, just watch out, here she comes. It was like, where did this woman come from? Where is she? What's her story? And you were I mean, I think that, it's hard to be authentic. It's hard to be vulnerable and to share exactly where you are. And I think that there is a lot of power to that, and you've certainly made that happen, which is pretty amazing. I just want to call out a couple more things. So someone says, I also found out through doing handstands and then figuring out a thicker area close to my collarbone. She says it's interesting to hear your story.
We're twins. We're yoga Desmoid twins.
So Jacqueline says, "You've helped me so much throughout my journey, and I'm so very proud to know you and be able to call you my friend and Desmoid's sister." And then we have a question from Deanne. She's asking, "Are you still teaching while you're going through treatment?"
I am not currently teaching full time. Quite frankly, I am so tired on my current treatment. It's pretty much like the early bird special schedule where I wake up and I get some things done and then I go back to sleep. However, I was able to teach outdoor theater over the summer, which was wonderful. I got to work with some younger students as well as high school age students. And the beauty of that is I taught them the previous summer all online. So this was like the encore year that I got to see them in person and see how they'd grown. And the big reveal was apparently how short I was. They were very disappointed to learn I was only 5'2". They had envisioned me, I guess, from here up as 5'7", which seems mammoth to me. But it was, so I'm so grateful that I'm still able to educate, albeit in a different setting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. So we have just a couple more questions. I think it's great to see them coming in. So I'm just going to take advantage of that. So what are your thoughts on survivorship? Someone says, Katrine says, "I'm finding it tough as this might be forever with ups and downs."
That's a really tricky word. I I know that it's been said before, and I think this is the closest that I've gotten to it with survivorship, is that from the first day that you were diagnosed through now, you're already considered a survivor, right? So whether you are in active treatment, whether you're in active surveillance, there is an element to surviving because just getting up in the day is surviving, or deciding that it's a bad day is also surviving. Um, I think that what's critical is that we continue to seek the emotional and mental support for ourselves, and not focus so much on tumor eradication is the goal, because for many of us that's not achievable, but maybe setting the bar as like, what does success look like to me? Does that mean having enough energy to take my dog on a walk? Does that mean that I'm able to make dinner for my family 3 nights a week? Things like that help me break survivorship down in from a less terrifying, overwhelming word to something that seems more tangible and something much more achievable within my day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing that with us, and thanks for your question, Katrine. So one other question before we make final announcements. So there have been a couple of posts in the chat asking if you've been vaccinated. I don't know if you feel comfortable answering that question, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. So
I do feel comfortable. No, thank you, Lynn. Yes, I am vaccinated. And especially with the timing of, as I'd mentioned before, when COVID started and the world shut down in early March, I had just finished 12 rounds of doxorubicin. So the timing was really precarious, and it was scary and overwhelming. And to any of you who are in that space right now, just know that, my heart's with you all. I got vaccinated. I spoke with my care provider about, can you share any of your insights and the overwhelming feedback? And I don't think it's a bad thing to give them a shout out at the University of Pennsylvania, because they're wonderful. My oncologist over there said, definitely get this. And so I had it. I would say the only thing that I wish I had known was that it was going to give me like chemo day flashbacks, some of those sensations in my body, but it's taken away some of the crippling anxiety that had kept me from doing things that otherwise have given me some restoration in my mental health and in my physical health. So, I think it's definitely worth talking to your care team about. And I would also suggest you can find a video. The DTRF had a physician speak, or oncologist. Maybe Lynn, you can have this at the ready, or know what it was. There was someone who spoke specifically about desmoid tumors and vaccines. So, as somebody who is not an expert in either of those fields, I deferred to what they said, and it was the best choice for me.
Yes, that's right, actually, and that is really helpful. Dr. Breland Wilkie did a Q&A, which was probably March or April of 2020, and possibly we could. I know it's on our website under patient resources. On our we have a special web page dedicated to COVID-19, and that FAQ is on there. Um, so, oh, you know what? It's about COVID-19, excuse me. It's not about the vaccine specifically. My apologies. Okay, so we're going to wrap up now. Christina, thank you so much. This was wonderful. We are so grateful that you took the time to speak with the community. Do you want to share any final words?
I just want to thank the DTRF so much for having me. I'm not going to lie, I feel a little hyped up. I feel a little bit like a rock star because everyone who I am chatting with now or online, those folks were the ones who really got me through those first lonely days of my diagnosis. And so to be included along with each one of you is a true honor and a blessing. And in the days that I worry about how I am doing, I am so grateful for all the things that you are doing to further the research and the eventual eradication of desmoid tumors.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina. Just a few things before we close, and I mentioned these in the beginning, that September is Desmoid Tumor Awareness Month. We are in September. Please visit our website to learn how you can spread the word and spread awareness about desmoid tumors. You can visit our site at dtrf.org/awareness. And then also remember to register for DTRF's Together We Will virtual weekend, which runs from Friday, September 24th to Sunday, September 26th. We have opportunities, again, for patients to learn and connect and network. There's no cost to attend. And again, when you register, you will receive an RFA fundraising page if you would like us to help us achieve our fundraising goal. So I think that's pretty much all that I have. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and a very special side thank you to our producer, Amanda. Um, and yeah, so bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.